I just got done watching Samaritan. This is the brand new film directed by Julius Avery, who did an amazing job with Overlord back in the day, and I really loved that film. I found Overlord to be a very unique twist on the war genre with adding his own sprinkle of zombies and horror. But here he is taking on the superhero genre with Sylvester Stallone, and I'm here to tell you why I wanted more from this movie, but I still think it's a good film. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. My name is Zach, and I'm here to give you guys my review for Samaritan. It's about a young boy who learns that a superhero who everyone thought died after an epic battle 20 years ago may in fact still be around. This is starring the likes of Sylvester Stallone and Javon Walton. Now, again, love Stallone. Love what Avery did with Overlord, and Javon Walton is a great standout in, of course, Euphoria as Ashtray. So I've been looking forward to this movie. I think this movie was, recorded and filmed over 2 years ago, and then the pandemic happened. And since then, I had actually heard a lot of great things about this movie behind the scenes, specifically from a lot of the test screenings that had happened around my area, and getting to talk to some people who had got to see the film early. Now, the film is, of course, not heading to theaters anymore. It is premiering on Prime Video tonight probably, or even tomorrow, and that's where I'm here to say and talk about Samaritan, because I think this movie is worth your time. I think this is a good film that's not as great as Overlord, but does exactly what Julius Avery does with the genres that we learned from his directing style. But in the end of the day, I wanted a little bit more from this film, and I think a lot of that comes down to just what I expected. And usually with a lot of my reviews, I like to start with the pros, but in this case, I actually want to get a lot of my issues out of the way and then dive into why I think this film is still worth your time, even if I personally wanted more from the film overall. But I do want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. Let me know down below if you guys have heard about this film. If you haven't, if you plan on watching it, have you seen it? Make sure to leave your thoughts down below. Of course, hit that like and subscribe button for all sorts of early movie reviews on a daily basis. But without further ado, let's dive into my issues like I mentioned. And one of my biggest issues with this film is flat out, this movie should have been rated R. I'm actually quite shocked that this film was not rated R. I think almost every single action scenes just felt like it was missing that punch, that pull, that really strong embrace that you were needing. And it felt like the way that the film was shot and edited reflects that. I really feel like this is one of those movies that was edited down to a PG-13. Now, I might be wrong in that, and you guys can let me know down below if you think the same thing, but as I was watching this movie, there was one particular action scene towards the back half of the film where I was going, okay, this clearly was rated R, correct? Like, just in the way that Sylvester Stallone is going about punching these bad guys, throwing them around, and the way that he is just brutally kicking the crap out of them. And it was very entertaining, but it always lacked a punch to me. It always lacked that forceful pull that you see anytime you watch an action film where you see that punch go through. And I was really wanting it in certain moments like this. A lot of the action's entertaining, but always lacked that emphasis to it that I feel like Overlord really had that bang to it, and I was expecting that in almost every single action scene here. As well as adding into that, I do feel like the film is a bit short. Now, it's only an hour and 39 minutes, but I do feel like this film could have been extended to 15 to 20 minutes. It doesn't really build up the world here that I was kind of expecting between the whole mythology about the Samaritan himself, and I was kind of hoping for that. Very much is surface level approach to everything involved here, and it feels in a way a cheaper version of Unbreakable, and I was really hoping for a deeper nuance into that all, as well as a relationship building between each and every one of the characters. And I guess that's where one of my biggest issues and where I really wanted more from this. Fine, you don't want to do an R rating, that's okay. But if you want to keep it at PG-13, I really need some emphasis between all of the characters, and that's just something that I feel like I really didn't get. And overall, my biggest issue with this film is the writing. I found that the Samaritan had a very weak script, a lot of weak dialogue, and overall just weak world building over to the entire point of it all. I think it's not a terrible script, but it's also not one of the greatest scripts ever. And while Julius Avery is a really good director, you can clearly tell that the film was held back by a lot of the writing nuances, and again, I wanted more from all of those aspects put together. But of course, with those aspects that I did want more from, let's talk about my pros, and why I still think this is a decent, good watch that you should absolutely check out this weekend, specifically because there's like nothing else coming out this weekend. But the first things first, Sylvester Stallone is awesome in this role. I loved him. I thought he was fantastic. I loved every single moment we got of him, and especially the buildup and the relationship that you really learn about this character. And again, as one-dimensional as certain elements are in here, one of the best things they got about right is everything that happens to be about the Samaritan, the superhero aspect, and really much the unbreakable piece of this film. Because this movie feels in a way like Unbreakable, M. Night Shyamalan's masterpiece, but in the more vein of having some great action scenes to it. And instead of diving more into the nuance of what it means to be a hero, it really just dives into what would it be in our world if there was superheroes around. And I think this is one of those interesting concepts where I really love what Stallone was able to do with this character. And overall, I was actually quite fascinated with his character and everything that had gone behind the scenes, that I look at this and I'm like, again, I wish the world building was a bit stronger there to give that further development and to give to what the great performance that Stallone is giving here. As well as Javon Walton, I've been a big fan of ever since Euphoria. I really liked him in Umbrella Academy Season 3, and I think in this movie he's actually pretty damn good. Now again, some of the writing does hold back some of his character moments, but again, he is very, very good in here, and I think him and Stallone have really good chemistry with one another. But the big star of this film is Julius Avery. His directing made this film from going to just being an okay film that really just feels like a ripoff of Unbreakable to a good movie that is entertaining and worth checking out for the most part. Because if you haven't seen Overlord yet, I very much recommend it, because what Avery did with that movie was flip the war and horror genre on its back and completely twist and turn it into a different type of element, but also added this B-level element to it all that we really don't get around with films, at least nowadays, and if we do, they're not well made. What he contains and brings to the Samaritan is something to the genre of superheroes and comic book movies that we just don't get enough. And this, again, feels very much in the vein of Unbreakable in the tone and genre that he took, but he uses his own style to flip it and give it this tone that does feel stronger than most. And again, I think with a better script, this film would have succeeded in exactly what he was trying to do, or at least even an R rating to really double down on the action sequences and give it that bang and impact that he was trying to provide here. Again, he is the star of this film due to his directing, and I really enjoyed a lot of the action sequences in here, particularly some of the stuff in the back half and a lot of the elements that he just brings to this overall world of the Samaritan. That's where I just get down to it, is that he made a B-level superhero film that I can kind of see why did not go in the theaters. And I don't think it's because of my feelings for why, if it was good or bad, because I've absolutely seen way worse movies this year. In fact, Morbius is still one of the worst pieces of garbage I've seen this year, and that was a comic book film. I also see that this is a smaller scale film that I don't think would do great in theaters, but on streaming, this is a perfect little film, and this was one of my most anticipated films. I had a lot of expectations going into this. Then I saw it got moved to streaming, my expectations kind of started to go a little bit down, but I still went into this with an open mind, and I left liking the movie. I just wanted more. I wanted more from the world, I wanted more from the characters, and in general, I think this movie should have been rated R. A lot of this is held back from the script, and again, maybe some studio decisions in the back half that made this film PG-13, or maybe I'm completely wrong and it was always planned to be a PG-13. Either way, there are elements that hold back the Samaritan from being the awesome comic book sleeper hit of this entire year. I still think this is a good film, but it's not one that I'm sadly going to remember in the next few years. But if you're asking me on what to watch this week, I still would recommend this because Stallone is great, Javon is great, and Julius Avery deserves the world. I still believe that Avery's twist and take on the superhero genre is absolutely worth checking out. That said, I'm going to give Samaritan a B-. Thank you once again, guys, for watching this. You guys are really all the best. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below your guys' thoughts. If you're interested in seeing more content from me on exclusive stuff and just getting great discussions with me on a one-to-one basis, go check out my Patreon as well down below. And of course, guys, thank you so much again for watching this. So of course, until next time, stay classy.